Hi there, my name is Shannon, and I'm the music and visual arts editor for Willamette Week, and I'm here today with Jim Brunberg. Jim, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me. How are you doing today?
My pleasure. Hanging in there, just putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you today kind of about, since you're the founder of the IVC, you've been working to get financial relief for independent music venues basically since March. So yeah, did that feel like a victory?
Last week, the state emergency board approved of funding. It was a big package. It was a package that made me really proud to be an Oregonian. We have some great leaders in Salem, or virtual in Zoom Salem. We have some people who believe in the healing power of the arts, and there was a big $50 million package that included everything from the Shakespeare Festival in Southern Oregon to the P5 venues in Metro, and it included the symphony and a lot of other entities, and most importantly for music venues and for independent theaters and independent comedy clubs and their ilk in Oregon. There was a $26 million fund set up that businesses can apply to. Businesses, including nonprofits, can apply to this fund with their basic needs and be qualified for a streamlined grant process. And I feel pretty good about that. There was also a list of 78 so-called dedicated venues that we were able to push through. That's a much smaller fund, but these were for the venues who are completely closed by COVID mandates and are not allowed to open their doors basically until there's a vaccine. And these are venues that their business model is not based on a restaurant or a bar or anything like that, but it's just, you know, the theaters ranging from little theaters out on the coast, like the Egyptian Theater on the southern coast, to the Elgin Theater, which is an Opry house in Elgin, Oregon. Just great places around the state that are cultural and community assets. I feel pretty good that we were able to do a part in helping to protect these venues so that they can hopefully reopen when there's a vaccine.
Right. So as a venue owner yourself, what are sort of the immediate things that the relief package is that you'll be taking care of?
Well, for the way it works for my venues, which are Revolution Hall and Mississippi Studios and Polaris, these are totally closed. And what we asked for these and other dedicated venues was the mortgage, or the reduced mortgage if you've negotiated with your landlord. The rent, that is, the rent or mortgage, whoever you've negotiated with, you've got a number, basically, so that they can't take your space away. And that means my landlord can't take my space away. Not that they would try. They've been very helpful, and they've reduced our mortgage. So we're going to get that reduced mortgage paid by the state for as long as we are mandated to be closed. And it's a huge sigh of relief. It also allows us and other venues like us to keep our person on who handles all the ticketing and talent buying and things like that, so that we can keep our basic administrative staff so that the business doesn't fall into extreme disrepair. When we come back from this, we're going to come back full throttle. I think people are really going to miss getting together and having shared experiences in person. And the way it works in venues like mine is that it takes months to ramp up, to schedule the shows, to figure out what bands are routing through, what acts are coming through, and then to do all the pre-production, set up the ticketing platform and everything. And this way we'll have a platform that we can spring into action from when the vaccine comes. And it's only 7 months, and it may be longer than that, but what this allows us to do is at least set up the basics so that we can now reach out to our patrons for assistance if we need it, like 8 months from now. We can reach out to local companies for sponsorship ideas, and it gives us a little bit of a chance to stop falling off of the cliff and catch our breath on this ledge that they've given us.
Right. So you saw how this kind of covers the basics, but what are some of the things that the venue relief doesn't cover?
It doesn't cover a lot. So you've heard of the PPP. Well, the PPP was a shot in the arm, but only for a handful of weeks, and it enabled us to bring some employees back to do what they love. The catch is in venue land, venues aren't open, so you know, a lot of venues used their PPP as instructed and brought some employees back and then had to lay them off again. Those people are still without work, and so, you know, some of them do okay on unemployment, but they don't do okay in terms of just being able to work and to do what they love. I'm really lucky and privileged to be in an industry where people, for the most part, love what they do. Our bartenders love coming in and working with people. Our sound engineers love creating art, and the musicians, of course, love playing on these stages, but they can't do it now. So this, of course, doesn't help with any of the doing. It also doesn't help with some of the other basics, like insurance is not one of the covered expenses. Insurance is a big component of what we do. It doesn't help with licensing and fees. There's a whole list of things, but I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. There's a whole list of things that you have to take into consideration when you own or operate a venue in terms of expenses and concerns. Repairs, it doesn't cover repairs. It doesn't cover maintenance. There are some leaky roofs in Astoria that are going to need fixing this winter. This doesn't cover that, for example. So if you are out there listening to this and you have a favorite venue, I still highly encourage you to get in touch with them and find out how they're doing, see if they need help. They might just need some volunteers to come and pick the weeds in front of the place so that it doesn't become an attraction for people to throw their litter on or something. You know, venues, a lot of them are just shuttered completely. And get in touch with your local venues and find out what they need, please.
Yeah. So for months, the IBC has been advocating for just venue-specific financial relief. You more or less got that now. What is the IBC going to be pushing for focusing on moving forward?
So in the process of putting together the IBC, you called me founder, but we're not a formal organization. We're not lobbyists or anything like that. We're not even we've registered as a trade organization, but we're still just getting our feet on the ground. But one thing that we've learned is that industry-wide, statewide, Oregon venues can do better. And one of the things that we've noticed is that there isn't much diversity or equity, inclusiveness-wise, in venues in Oregon. There's almost none, in fact. So one of the things that we're doing is we're talking to local BIPOC leaders and people of color about the possibility of how we can best help them create a part of this ecosystem that is more inclusive and diverse. So we're talking to people from Friends of Noise and from all different groups. Music Portland has hooked us up with some really interesting people who have some really innovative ideas for how to get music into a place where it can be experienced by all people, and so that all people feel welcome in these places that we call our workplaces, in these venues. Just tomorrow, we're going to be talking to some folks about this. And it's an important next step, I think, that Oregon needs to take in order to be better and to do what we do better. And we've got a little bit of a breather now in that we've got this funding, so we can sort of stop sprinting and pause and reflect on how we can come out of this better, stronger, and more inclusive for everybody.